In this episode, I want to give you the secret to finding more time in your day. Get excited because this is Tiny Leaps, Big Changes. Welcome to another episode of Tiny Leaps, Big Changes, where I share simple strategies you can use to get more out of your life. My name is Greg Clunis, and in this episode, we are tackling a problem that so many of you face, myself included, and that is there's just not enough time in the day. Now, the truth is there's more than enough time in the day. There's more time in the day than we actually know what to do with. However, most of us are not in a position to really leverage that time and utilize that time in the best way possible. So today on the show, I want to talk about using that time, finding the time, and different ways to leverage the time that exists in the day so that you can get more done, so that you can be more productive, and so that you can accomplish your goals. Now, with that said, before we jump in, if you have not subscribed already, be sure to click subscribe wherever you're consuming this. If you're over on the audio on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, any of the other platforms, click subscribe there. If you are watching on YouTube right now at youtube.com/Greg Clunis, click subscribe here. We are in a race right now to get to 1,000 subscribers. So every subscription matters, and I really, really appreciate you for doing that. So with that said, let's jump into it. Now, the big problem here with time management and just sort of living our day-to-day lives is that it's not that there isn't enough time. It's that we feel like there isn't enough time. Because the truth is, if you, and you've seen this breakdown, I'm sure it's all over the internet, but if you're sleeping for 8 hours, if you are working for 8 hours, that's 16 hours of the day. There is a whole nother 8 hours there. Now, let's say you commute for 2 hours every day back and forth. So 2 hours, that leaves you with 6 total hours. If you are making and eating dinner, let's call that an hour. You're spending time with family, let's call that 2 hours. You're left with about 3 hours every single day. That's 3 hours after you've gotten enough sleep, you're eating properly, you've done your job, you spent time with your family, a significant amount of time. You still got 3 hours left over. That's just fun time. That's whatever you want to do time. And so the question isn't, how do I get more hours in the day? The hours are there. Because for most of you, I'm willing to bet if you are following sort of a similar schedule to that, you're not using those 3 hours, right? Right? You're not waking up every day and like having this chunk of 3 hours to just do stuff with, right? Now, why is that? Well, it's not because those hours don't exist. It's because those hours are broken up. You see, those hours don't exist as a block of 3 hours. You might only have an hour straight. The other 2 hours might be broken up throughout the day. But those 3 hours still exist. They're still happening. They're still passing you. So what can we do here? What is the solution? Well, if the problem isn't how do I get more time in the day, then the better question, the better problem is, how do I best leverage the time I already have? How do I best utilize the time I already have? And the answer to that, in my opinion, is that first you need to switch the way you think about time available. See, most of us, the reason we don't notice these hours, these 3 hours that exist in our days is because, like I mentioned before, they are broken up. And when we look at our day, we aren't thinking about the 5 minutes here, the 2 minutes here, the 1.5 minute there. We're not looking at our calendar or our schedule and saying, oh, look, I've got 3 minutes right here between this thing and this thing. Like, we're just not doing that. We're not thinking about the time we spend in the bathroom. We're not thinking about the time we spend walking down the hallway. We're not thinking about the time we spend going back and forth to the water cooler. We're not thinking about that time. That's where much of the 3 hours exists. It's in those little moments that you aren't thinking about. And so the big question becomes not so much how do we find more time in the day, not even, quite honestly, how do we best leverage the time, but the first big question is, can we get ourselves to believe that that time is there? Can we first start to notice that that time exists? If we can do that, then we can start to move on to the second step, which is potentially more important. So that's the first big thing, is you've just got to get to a place where you recognize, there's all this time. There's 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here, 13 minutes here, 12.5 minutes here. Like there is time available. We just need to find a way to use it. Right. So then the second step, what is that? Well, second, we need to understand that time is valuable, because the first big hurdle is, does this time even exist? And just starting to notice it. The second big hurdle is, okay, cool. I found 1.5 minutes in between these two meetings. What the heck am I going to do with that? And it's a valid question. Quite honestly, it's a very valid question. What the heck are you going to do with 1.5 minutes between the different meetings that you need to go to? And so that second challenge is getting ourselves to a place where we recognize this time as inherently valuable. Because the truth is, in 1.5 minutes, let's say your goal is to read more. In 1.5 minutes, you could read a page. Is that going to get you to the end of the book? No. But it doesn't need to. It just needs to get you progress. And I talk about this all the time on the show. That's why it's called Tiny Leaps. The goal is not to get to the end thing. Like, yes, we want to read the full book. Yes, we want to read 52 books a year. Yes, we want to do blah, 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 blah. But the first step is to read a single book. And how do you read a single book? Well, it's in those 1.5 minutes where you can read a single page or maybe 2 pages. And if it's a 300-word book, guess what? You've got 1.5 minutes 3 times every single day. That's 4.5 minutes every single day. Now you're reading, let's say, 5 pages. For you slower readers, maybe you're reading 3 pages. 4.5 minutes, 3 pages every single day. It's a 300-page book. Now you've got 100 days until you finish that book. You got 100 days till you finish the book, 365 days a year. Now you can read 3 books a year, 3.5 books a year. Is that amazing? No. But is it better than 0 books a year? Yeah, it is. It absolutely 100% is. And the best part is that it doesn't stay there. Because once you start to notice that this time exists and you start to prioritize and value that time, eventually you're going to find yourself noticing more time and noticing bigger chunks, because now you're paying attention to the amount of time you have and where your time is going and how you're spending it. And so you're going to end up finding deeper pockets of time, deeper wells of time to dive into in order to make your goals possible. And that's purely because, like I said before, you are now paying more attention to it. You're paying more attention to your time, where it's going, where it's being used, and how you can leverage those tiny little moments that you find. And so it's just so interesting to me, because once I started to think about my time this way, like this is the thing that really helped me to make more progress every single day, because I started to realize, like, oh, you know what? 5 minutes is valuable. Like, if my goal is to start a business, like 5 minutes spent reading an article about marketing, like that has value. I'm learning a skill. 5 minutes spent doing, setting up a Facebook campaign, 5 minutes spent watching a webinar, 5 minutes spent doing XYZ things is incredibly valuable. There is value in those short little moments. So do not discount them. Do not let yourself fool yourself into thinking, oh, it doesn't matter. And it's fascinating to me, because ultimately that's the thing that gets people to move forward. That's the thing that stops us from moving forward or allows us to move forward, is that question of how much do we value the small moments that we have during the day. Because again, if you're able to read for 4.5 minutes a day over the course of multiple sessions, in 100 days, you'll have a book finished. And that book might be the key to unlocking your next stage in your career or in your love life or in whatever area of your life you're paying the most attention to right now. And so you cannot discount that. And we tend to do that. We tend to just look at that time and say, that doesn't matter. that 5 minutes, it's not important. The 1 minute, it's not going to have a big effect on the end result I'm looking for. And so therefore, I'm just not going to do anything. But the truth is, if you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to eat healthier, it's not about looking at the last 30 days and saying, okay, I ate healthy in the last 30 days. It's each individual meal. It's the choices you make in each individual moment that leads to the outcome you are looking for. That's it. That's how it works. You make small choices every single day, and those choices compound and stack on top of each other, and they create the result that is either moving towards your goal or moving away from it. That's it. If you're trying to make more money, it's not just about getting the raise. It's about learning the skills. It's about making the relationships, like those small decisions to go to the office party or not, to take the online course or not, to go the extra mile on a project or not. Like those are the decisions that add up to somebody saying, okay, you know what, you deserve this raise. So in the rest of our lives, I think we recognize that it's never about that big moment that creates the outcome. It's always these small things, these small decisions that we make. And for whatever reason, when it comes to our time, we forget that. We forget that this 1.5 minutes, 3 minutes, 7 minutes, whatever it is, like we forget that matters, because those are these small moments. Those are the small things that we can choose to use productively or not. And based on our choice is the outcome that we're going to get. So what I want to leave you with here is just to encourage you to pay closer attention to those small moments. Like pick your goal, whatever it might be, and just pay attention to your day. Where can you find 1 minute? Where can you find 3 minutes? And actually, I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you to do this. 3 minutes. Find 3 minutes in your day to do some activity that moves you towards your goal. I don't care how small it is. I don't care what that activity is. I don't care what the goal is. Find 3 minutes today. Don't put it off till next week. Don't put it off till later. Find 3 minutes today that you can take some small action towards your larger goal. I promise you, if you do this, you're going to start gaining momentum and you're going to feel good about yourself. You're going to be depositing into that confidence account that we always talk about. And that's going to help you to sustain that momentum and sustain the progress and keep taking action, and find more time and more time and more time. And eventually you're going to get to that goal. So just take 3 minutes today. That's all I want you to do. 3 minutes today. Find 3 minutes. Could be between your two meetings. It could be on your lunch break. It could be right after you get home. It could be right before you go to sleep. I don't care when it is. Find 3 minutes and do one small thing towards your goal. That is all I ask from you. And with that said, I've been Greg Clunas. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to click subscribe wherever you are consuming this. If it's on YouTube, be sure to click subscribe there. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and every subscription counts. Really appreciate it if you head over to youtube.com/Greg Clunas and click subscribe there to watch the podcast and video, as well as vlogs and other videos that I'm going to be putting out in the near future. If you're listening to the audio, be sure to click subscribe. If you're driving right now, have somebody that's in the car with you. Click subscribe. And then while they're at it, have them subscribe on their phone, because why not? Thank you so much for tuning in. And remember that all big changes come from the tiny leaps you take every day.